What's up, guys? Welcome to the Fantasy Addiction Network. Today we are talking the top XFL tight ends, ranking them for fantasy football purposes, giving a breakdown for each. Not going to waste any time. Let's get right into it. Alright, guys, so let's go through the top 8 tight ends. Now, I'm going to preface this by saying, and I've mentioned this before, I think that the tight ends are going to be the hardest position to get right and figure out in the XFL. They're definitely not going to be the most prioritized spot. There's probably only going to end up being a few good guys here, and tight end is going to be incredibly difficult for season-long leagues and daily to get right each week. So let's try to break down who we think will be some of the better options, and just know that this is going to be a moving target all year. But anyway, at number 8, I'm starting with Shawn Price, the tight end for the Dallas Renegades. In terms of size, fit, and skill, I do think that Parham will end up being the best tight end on this team. We'll get into him a little bit more later, but it's worth noting that Price could also see usage in this system, which, considering the lack of help at the tight end position, Shawn Price should be someone that is on your radar. Especially if you draft Parham early, you might want to grab Shawn Price in one of your later rounds just to make sure that you've locked down that tight end position that should be used decently heavily in the Dallas Renegades system. Alright, looking at number 7, I see Conor Davis for the St. Louis Battlehawks. Now, at 6'8", 260 pounds, Conor Davis is truly a monster of a man. I do believe that considering his coach was a tight end coach for many years, this should definitely help into the development of Davis into a productive tight end. However, I do really want to see it on the field before we considering spending any draft capital on him in drafts. We did just see his cohort, I believe his name is Cole Hunt, the other tight end for the Battlehawks, scored a touchdown in the scrimmage game yesterday. While that doesn't necessarily mean too much, I do believe that the tight ends in the system will probably be used primarily for blocking, but should both be red zone targets, so we'll end up seeing who ends up being the better tight end. Hopefully we'll have some more information on that before the season starts. Alright, jumping to number 6, EJ Bibbs for the New York Guardians. Another big body target in New York. Unfortunately for Bibbs, he'll definitely be competing for red zone targets with Mikael McKay and D'Angelo Yancey already clamoring for plenty of red zone targets, and Tim Cook likely to be the goal line back. I do believe that Bibbs could end up becoming one of the more reliable options in the red zone if someone ends up missing time for the Guardians, if there's any injuries to any of the big names. But overall, I do think he'll end up being used predominantly as a blocking tight end, which doesn't really help people in fantasy, but it's still a name that you want to keep out there because he would be the main pass-catching tight end in New York if that is how they choose to deploy him. Alright, number 5, we have Evan Rodriguez for the Seattle Dragons. Tight ends, again, as I'm saying, are pretty hard to project in the XFL right now, but I do think Rodriguez could be a decent target in Seattle. They don't have too many alphas in that offense, and I think that he could definitely be a good red zone target, and definitely could become the go-to guy in the red zone if he's able to produce in that way. So really, I mean, it's pretty similar to the NFL in that we're trying to find tight ends that at least give us the opportunity to score touchdowns each week. If we can't find a guy that's going to be getting consistent targets, that's really the only other thing to look for, and that's definitely something that Evan Rodriguez provides. Alright, number 4, we have got Khari Lee for the DC Defenders, undrafted guy out of Bowie State who had never had more than 34 receptions in a season in college, but has a decent burst score, and also gets the benefit of playing on a really good offense for the Defenders, which should include plenty of opportunities both for touchdowns and extra point plays. Now, that's an important thing to remember as we're talking about a lot of these tight ends. The red zone opportunities mean more than just touchdowns. It also means those 1, 2, and 3 point extra point plays after the touchdown. So that gives tight ends a little bit more of a room, a little bit more room to score fantasy points, because they'll most likely be targeted a lot in those, high volume red zone situations just because of how big they are. They definitely become a very hard target to guard in those short yardage end zone situations. So I do like Khari Lee a lot. He's definitely competing for a lot of targets, or he's going to be hard to compete for a lot of targets because of the depth with Rashad Ross and Eli Rogers and Jahril Presley and Donnell Pumphrey over there. It's going to be very hard for him to see a decent amount of targets, but overall I do think that Khari Lee is athletic enough and good enough of a pass catcher that he should at least be considered one of the better options at the tight end position in the XFL. Alright, jumping to number 3 as we finally start to getting to some of the more fun tight ends, and I'm definitely going to break down some videos for draft strategy, but I think securing one of the top end tight ends is going to be one of the more important things to do in season-long leagues. Donald Parham plays for the Dallas Renegades. He's 6'8" and 240 pounds, has a tremendous wingspan, is still only 22, is looking to prove himself in the XFL to get a shot at an NFL team. In his senior year for Stenson, now granted that's not a Division 1A school, but he received over 1,300 yards and had 85 receptions and 13 touchdowns. Given the presence of Price on this team, I like Parham to get fed targets while Price becomes the more primary blocker. This is definitely your sleeper tight end of the year. If you cannot grab one of the top 2 guys, I think Donald Parham definitely becomes a tremendous asset for your team. Make sure you walk away with your draft with him if you do not get one of the top 2 guys. And honestly, as the training camp goes on, and we get more news, he may even jump to my number 2. Just that's how much I believe in him. But for now, we have a number 3. All right, number 2, we have Brandon Barnes for the Los Angeles Wildcats. Barnes has been one of the most impressive players in camp and in a team with decently strong wide receivers, but no true alpha. Barnes should get an opportunity to shine in Los Angeles, where he's not been previously given the opportunity. He could honestly become the most reliable receiving option for this team if Nelson Spruce or Katie Cannon can't get it done. As we've already discussed in our wide receiver video, Trey McBride isn't really doing anything right now to make a name for himself, so I think Brandon Barnes is kind of stepping in to fill that void. I think Brandon Barnes will be one of the primary end zone and extra point targets, but he's also a good receiver, so he shouldn't just be targeted in the red zone. I think Brandon Barnes is very comparable to Donald Parham in that there's not any guarantee for his targets, but I do think that he'll end up being one of the more productive tight ends. That's why I have him at number 2. All right, and then jumping to number 1, we have Nick Truesdale for the Tampa Bay Vipers, drafted first pick for the Vipers in the skill position draft, and has been getting tons of hype throughout training camp, looking to be one of the biggest breakout players. Truesdale was 12th in receiving yards in the AAF, but first amongst tight ends, and should be the perfect complement to Antonio Callaway. He's played a lot in arena football and has been a touchdown machine and is an athletic freak. Pretty much all around, I do believe that he will be one of the most heavily targeted pass catchers in Tampa Bay outside of Antonio Callaway, and could very easily be the primary target for Aaron Murray, become kind of like that comfort pillow close to the line of scrimmage, and he also has the ability to make plays deep down the field. So this is, while I'm not comparing him on an athletic standpoint to someone like Travis Kelce, he could definitely be the Travis Kelce of the XFL. So that's why I have him at number 1. He's pretty much in a tier of his own for now, and we'll continue to monitor, as the roster cuts take place, if there's anything else that stands out. But Nick Truesdale, if you're going to draft a tight end early, that's the guy that you're going to go for. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this. If you want to see how I have all the players ranked in the XFL, feel free to click the link in the description below. You can access my rankings for free, or go to fantasyaddictionnetwork.com. Again, I'll be updating those all the way up until the time the season starts, so feel free to download those, and I hope you guys enjoy that. Comment below, too, if there's any other tight ends that you think I missed or someone that you want to talk about. Probably talk about them in a future video. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this, and we will see you in the next one.